Hold on, calling to order the meeting for Tuesday, December 14th, the regular business meeting for Verona Borough. Please stand
recording.
and say the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Could someone please tell them that we started the meeting? Because otherwise I'm gonna shut the door. It's noisy out there. Roll call, Christine, please.
Nancy Carpenter,
Present.
Dave Matlin,
Present.
Janet Loelbo,
Present.
Sylvia Provenza,
Present.
Trish Redzak Showalter,
Present.
Raymond Suchovich,
Present.
Joey Warren,
Present.
David Recupero,
Present.
Craig Alexander,
Here.
Matt Pitt,
Present.
Christine DeRonk, present.
Okay, at this point, are there any additional emergency agenda items that I need to add to the agenda?
No.
All right, at this point, we're going to hear from Mr. Matlin. He has a presentation about the 2022 proposed budget.
All right. Thank you, Madam President.
I believe everybody up here has this in paper form as well. Those are just some revised budgets. That's not the presentation. Hey, Christine, we don't have extra agendas over there. No.
I'll go make some copies.
Okay. I just wanted to recap start off by recapping the budget process. I have a little presentation on kind of where we've gotten to from here and some general items related to the budget and what we're going to be doing in 2022. So first, I just wanted to recap. Let me make sure I'm sharing this.
It's not.
It's not sharing.
Online, no. I don't think the people at home are seeing it.
Sharing now?
Yes.
The chair. Okay.
Yes.
So just to recap the past public meetings we've held and the progress so far. November 9th, we had a regular business meeting that featured an introductory presentation on the budget for 2022. Christine gave a high-level overview of the expenses and revenues. We were focused really only on the general fund and not other funds such as the sewer or liquid fuels, since the general fund has the bulk of everything. And this was presented as a best-case scenario based on a potential to be able to use ARPA, American Rescue Plan funding. In the subsequent weeks, we found out that that wasn't actually going to be able to be used. So on November 23rd, we held a special budget workshop meeting. We had a roundtable discussion with all the council members in front of the dais. Everyone was able to give input on the draft budget and possible adjustments. This was a full budget with all of the funds shown. The deficit we were looking at that point was in the range of 370,000. November 30th, we held a regular workshop meeting, mainly focused on the budget. We presented a revised budget based on some of the adjustments we came up with on November 23rd. This was looking like a balanced budget with a fund balance over $100,000 and was looking at a 3 mil property tax increase. The result of that discussion amongst council was to revise that to a 2.7 mil increase and advertise the budget for 10-day public inspection period, which can happen on December 3rd. And that's a advertisement required by the Borough Code. So that brings us to tonight, December 14th, regular business meeting. We are featuring this budget discussion and a possible vote on the budget. And there would only be a workshop meeting necessary if we don't come to that passage tonight. So the budget is an ongoing process. It's going to continue throughout the next year. This is a plan for 2022. This is not set in stone. So these aren't necessarily final amounts. They're our best estimate based on the information we have so far. So the goal is to plan the budget of the plan. The goal is to plan the plan well enough that we don't find ourselves in a hole or with unexpected expenses or less revenues than we anticipated.
You need to advance the slide.
No, I'm still on this slide. Anyway, and the final amounts for some of these items will ultimately be determined by council policy. So some of them, we're putting it in there as an allowance to be able to do the things we may need to do, but ultimately we can decide whether to certain things, whether to spend or not. So I would just like to say that I feel like this council has made great strides in the past year to improve the transparency of the budget process. And I'm really glad to see so many members of the public actively engaged in the budget process throughout all these meetings, including tonight. I just want to say we've heard the public comment over the last 3 meetings. We're doing our best to find a balance and to find viable solutions given all the different information and the different priorities that are competing. So, oops, sorry.
Told you.
Yeah, you're right. So what council's been trying to do lately is to focus more on policy making. So policy making or public policy is generally defined as decisions that are intended to solve problems and improve the quality of life for the citizens of, in this case, our local borough. It could apply to state level, federal level, any level of government. So the legislative body, which is us as council, sets the policy and the staff and employees carry out that policy. So policy making is one of the primary responsibilities of a borough council. And there's basically 5 steps in a policy process. There's agenda setting, where you're defining what you're trying to achieve, what your goals are, what you're looking to do ultimately. And then there's policy formulation, where you start to develop and formulate that policy. And then once there's some agreement among the legislative body, there's policy adoption. And then the implementation comes down to oftentimes the borough staff, the employees, to carry that out. And then after that, there's policy evaluation, where you look to see whether it's effective, it's efficient, whether it's if it costs X amount of money or whatever metrics used to evaluate. So when there is no policy, there's still a policy there. And so that can lead to unwanted results. So for example, demolition of blighted properties. We don't really have a policy on how to determine which structures to demolish and which ones aren't demolished. So we don't always have a set of priorities in front of us. And so we may not be focusing on the properties in greatest need when we're making decisions about individual properties to demolish. So that's just an example. We are trying to focus more on that. I think all of us on council have been doing that lately and thinking about that. And there is an opportunity for council to handle some of the questions raised in the 2022 budget via policymaking. So one of those things is staffing number, responsibilities, and authority of key positions. So that includes the administrative office structure, that includes DPW and their work plan. And ultimately, it's up to council to determine staffing and handle personnel issues. So public comments are heard on things related to that, and we'll address personnel issues at the appropriate time. We are not going to address them generally in public out of respect and dignity for the career public servants that are working for the borough. And Another one is support of community groups. So I've heard, you know, in the past couple meetings, some concerns that the borough doesn't want to support community groups. And I want to reassure everyone that that is not the case, that there's many dedicated community volunteers out there. And that's not the intent of this council, of this board. We're just looking at ways that we can better track and account for a lot of different things, including, you know, the borough resources that we use for various community initiatives. Similar to what we've been doing this year and trying to track, better track time spent by staff on sewers and parks, because that does have an implication to which fund we can use money for, and helps us understand where the time is going. Things like staff overtime, whether it's DPW or police or anything else, it helps us understand why, and it helps us make adjustments to be more efficient in the future. So, and then things like time spent on, you know, fee schedule, services, code enforcement, tip sheets, that's all stuff we're trying to track better. So we're just trying to track and account for things better so that we can build better budgets going forward. And so the goal in all of that is to set a policy to ensure that the resources used, not just for community groups, but for other services that we provide, are distributed fairly, efficiently, and deliberately, not just on a whim. And another thing that we can address via policy is the sewer fund review. There wasn't really enough time in this budget season to do a full review of the sewer fund. Just given when Christine started and everything else we had going on, we are going to look to do that more in 2022. Look at evaluating current rates, future Alcosan increases, and what level of funding is appropriate to provide to the sewer fund annually, as well as planning and assessing capital improvements for the sanitary sewer system, and establishing a policy to pay back the sewer fund debt that's owed from the general fund. Another thing is code enforcement and blight. You know, we can look at how do we handle maintenance issues on blighted private property. I gave that example earlier. Code enforcement and maintenance of that blighted property costs money. So how do we keep a handle on this with consistency and with diligence for the taxpayer dollars? You know, using that for the resources to deal with code enforcement. Another one is purchasing policy. We don't currently have a purchasing policy, so we end up bringing a lot of stuff to the meetings that maybe could be a smaller dollar that could be dealt with otherwise. There's no policy, so we don't. There's no known threshold as to what you know, AJ in Public Works or Christine or the chief, you know, can spend on their own without having to come to council for, you know, buying you know, a new uniform or what have you. So the idea is that no big capital expenses would be made without involvement of the entire council. And a purchasing policy could allow for department heads to have a limit of authority so that you know, we don't drag down meetings and council's time. Another one is revenue policies, looking at alternative fee structures for various things, ensuring that taxes and fees are fair and consistent, and seeking a sustainable plan to lessen or avoid future property tax increases. Another one is future expenses. So looking at operating costs in greater detail to find longer term savings or efficiencies, maybe regionalizing or partnering with other, you know, neighbors, like we've done sort of with the building inspection, UCC building inspection with Oakmont, putting that out as a joint RFP. Another one is capital planning. You know, we can better plan future capital projects and have efficiency and savings if we prioritize which paving should be done and which facilities should be done. And looking for economies of scale by combining similar projects. And the last one is communications, including the borough website, social media. We do need to improve our policies and systems for disseminating information. What features and services and information should we have on those communication channels, and who will be responsible for the updates? So those are all possible things that we're going to look to make policies on, so that ultimately, so that we have a framework for what needs to be done within the borough. And so another thing that's been in progress is professionalizing the borough's administrative office. So that's something that's been ongoing throughout this year. We still have a lot of work to do there. We started out by hiring a professional borough secretary, Christine, with the opportunity to grow the position into a borough manager. That borough manager position is an expansion of responsibility and authority. And that's a progression that we've talked about, as council agreed to this past summer. We're trying to stick to our plan and stay true to our word, because this is a progression that will lift up this borough. There's other improvements that have started this year that are ongoing. Again, documenting policies and procedures, reviewing all the various contracts, preparing analysis related to tax collection rates and sewer fees, and benchmarking against other communities as far as level of service and things like that. So there's more system and organizational improvements that are needed, like a lot of the policies I listed earlier. So that brings us to this table that I put together with some experimental budgets, and hopefully everyone can see it fairly well. I apologize, it's a little bit small, but try to zoom in. So this shows the budgets that were presented at the past two meetings, the budget that was advertised on December 3rd, and then 4 different experiments. And so it compares various millage increases, including a 0 increase, as well as past iterations of the budget that were presented at those meetings. Now, and then it looks at an ending fund balance, both with and without a sewer fund repayment. This would be the first an annual sewer fund repayment of $55,000 to cover the debt to the sewer fund. So basically, if you take the revenues minus the expenditures, you get your net for the year, and that net, that has to be balanced. That has to be equal to 0 or greater in order to pass a balanced budget. So and then the fund balance is basically taking that net and combining it with the fund balance. And this is looking at the general fund only, by the way. Looking at that from the prior year. So the opening fund balance projected for the 1st of January in 2022 is at negative $51,870. Now, I believe at the beginning of this year, we were at negative $221,000. So that is an improvement. And taking that net and combining with that gets us our ending fund balance that we would project for 2022 on December 31st. And so the 2 bolded lines, 3rd from the bottom and at the very bottom, those are the 2 different fund balances we'd look at with and without the sewer fund transfer. So basically, even without a payment to the sewer fund, even at a 0 mil or a 1 mil increase, we're still in the red, both as far as not having a balanced budget and still being in the red for our fund balance at the end of the year. So I met with the rest of the finance committee last Thursday with Ray and with Joey, and we went through this and we had a good discussion. And what we felt like we wanted to put forward as a recommendation to council was to change the millage increase that was advertised at 2.7, lower it to 1.9, which would be experiment D. Sorry, I got the letters mixed up, but this would be experiment D in the second column from the right. And and also remove the $55,000 in the sewer fund transfer. We would basically be deferring that sewer fund transfer or sewer fund payment another year. With the idea that, we still have a balance due to the sewer fund. We still need to pay that back. It's going to show on our audits. It's going to show on our monthly finance statements until that is recovered. But knowing that there is a lot we're trying to do this year with this budget, there's a lot of challenges. The thought was that we could postpone that a year and lessen this hit of a millage increase. So we're making a lot of compromises here, significant compromises. But I think the three of us were all in agreement that this is a good balance, as best a balance as we can find, to try to, taking different factors into account. And it does leave us with, this shows an $82,264 ending fund balance at the end of next year. But I will note that we did get an update just in the last week or so about the bookbinders. They do our accounting services or their bookkeeping services. For next year, their rates are going up. They didn't have an increase last year due to COVID. And so they say it's going to be in the range of 7 to 9%, which amounts to maybe $1,900 or so. So we're going to adjust that in the budget to account for that. We don't know the exact numbers yet, but so we're looking at an $80,000 fund balance, which based on the past discussions of previous meetings is lower than we probably want to be long-term or should be at to cover, operating expenses in the first part of the year when we don't have as much revenue coming in. But again, the finance committee, we reviewed this, we felt like this is the best compromise to try to lessen the hit, but also still leave us with some room for growth and for the potential for emergencies. And we do feel like there is enough to cover what we need to do in the sewer fund next year without the $55,000. And so that's the recommendation that we're putting forward. And I just wanted to get council's thoughts, the rest of council's thoughts on any of that. I know that was a lot to digest.
Thank you, Dave. That was a great presentation. Appreciate all your hard work on putting that together. So, council people, Janet, Sylvia, Trish, Mayor, I know that finance committee people has kind of weighed in already, but like to hear anybody else's thoughts on council about this. Go ahead, Janet.
I do appreciate you taking another look at it again and seeing what we can do to lower that millage. I know, I myself was not real thrilled with the increase of the originally was what the 2.7 mils. So this does make me feel better. I know how the extent how hard we've worked all year just to make the cuts that we have. I mean, we really whittled away quite a few things, and we have our necessities that we need to keep on in order to function as a borough. So I do appreciate this budget update here. Thank you.
I would also like to, thank you, Dave, and the finance committee for putting this together, and Christine, you put a lot into this also. Thank you. I think one thing we all got to realize, even if it wasn't for the sewer fund, everything goes up. Everything. We haven't raised taxes in quite a while, and we've fallen behind. In the past councils, it was brought up, but we didn't raise them. I mean, everything in your home, your businesses, if you're a business owner and own your property, everything's going up. Your insurance, your gas, utilities, everything. And somehow or another, we have to, compromise. Wages go up. We got 2 contracts coming up. The street department, the end of 2022, and the police contract. And there's more money there. And, it's inevitable that we have to raise something. We have to get the money from somewhere. I don't want them raised. I work 2 jobs. I work my shop and I work full-time for my son. And just to make ends meet. But I'm here to stay in Verona. We got to do what we got to do. In 1997, I don't think any of you were on. We had a major sewer problem on 2nd Street. And I think it was about a $325,000, $350,000 sewer job. And Nicasio, that construction, they did the work. They were right across the street there on the bottom of Shannon Road, for those who know who they were. We didn't have the money. We floated a $1 million bond, raised taxes. People come down, complained about it, which they have every right to do. We all on council had to pay also. And we floated that bond. Millage went up significant, but with that $1 million, we paid a lot of bills off. We paid the contractor. We bought a new dump truck for the street department, along with a new front loader. And we had a little buffer money in that, and we took it out for 10 years. 10 years later, 2007, we paid the bond off, but we borrowed it again, the $1 million, to do some other infrastructure work throughout the time, and we ended up buying Verona's first new fire truck since 1970 or 71, 72. That was the second new fire truck in my generation that we had bought. And it's inevitable. We have to do that. This board didn't want to. I've been in the exec sessions with them. They've talked about it. Nobody wanted it, especially the 3 mills, the 2.9. I'm glad to see where you're at on that. And I just hope the people, the public understands, we're all in this also. We have to pay, what you pay. And like I said, I'm on a fixed, personally, I'm on a fixed income. I'm by myself, and just got to make things manage, and I hope the public understands that. That's all.
Anyone else? Sylvia or Trish?
Well, it's been pretty well covered. I certainly concur with everything that has been said. I extend many thanks to you, Dave, all the work that you and Christine have done, and to our finance committee. I have a fairly, what's considered a new home. So my taxes aren't cheap to begin with. But you know what? Like they all said, we don't really have a choice. We have to do this, and we're going to move forward, and we're all going to make it. We've done it before, and I'll tell you what, we'll do it again. I'm sorry about it. I'm as affected as everybody in this room. And it's not an easy route, but we're just going to do it, and it will get done. And I'm sorry that we have to present this, but sometimes there's things we have to do that we don't like to do, and this is certainly one of them. We've tried, we've done everything we could, we've shaved everywhere we could, and this is where we brought it down to. So I hope you all understand. Thank you.
Trish?
Yeah, last but not least, yeah, agreed with all of that. We all realize coming out of COVID, especially how hard this is on so many Verona families, and none of us want to do this. I'm so relieved, and thank you, Christine, Dave, and the Finance Committee for your efforts. I'm relieved that it's no longer at 2.7. We're now at 1.9. And I also wanted to remind everyone about the increase on the sewer via Alcosan that we are not passing on. So at least that we are able to absorb that cost to the taxpayer. And furthermore, as Dave touched on, with improving many of our policies and processes, I think you're going to see a higher functioning borough in the future years, one that's able to deliver a lot more to the people, to all the groups doing wonderful work. So I guess in short, we don't want to do this, but it's going to make us much better able to serve all of you. So thank you.
Thanks. Joey Ray from the Finance Committee, you want to add anything?
I think we had a lot of meetings. We spent numerous hours, whole group plus the Finance Committee. And we looked at it and argued and, you know, back and forth, and it's inevitable that something has to be done. And when we talked last week, the budget, the finance committee, you know, there was some discussion and some disagreements, but we felt that this would be the best thing that we could come up with. That we wouldn't have to raise the taxes for almost 3 mills. At least we're under the 2 mills, and I just, you know, I don't know what else can be done. I mean, I know everybody has their thoughts and their opinions, but until you get into the budget, until you start looking at all the inner workings, and there's a lot of things in there that need to be there. You know, your wages and your possible increases, and the work that, you know, like Christine does, you know, impeccable work. I just think this is where we need to be. So I want to thank Joey and Dave on the finance committee for us 3 working together and trying to get a balanced budget. And, you know, like everybody else says, this is hitting my pocketbook too, just like it's hitting everyone in this room. So it's not like we're getting off scot-free either. So that's all I have to say.
Yeah, I agree. We're beyond 16 hours of this in public meetings and committee meetings, and Ray and Dave and Christine. I know a lot of hard work and compromise, a lot of listening from the residents as well. I feel like we've exhausted many options. I believe we're also exercising discipline with this. So for those of you who are longtime residents, or those of you like myself and my family who just moved here 3 years ago, who find ourselves in a situation where we have been reassessed with our home, I will personally be paying more as well. This was a tough decision. I'd almost say this graph is extended probably to the 3 to 4 that we see in the upfront here too. I think that the 1.9 mils is a responsible place to land with this. I'd love to see a lot more green on this in years to come, but I think we have to start off in the orange first. So of course, we all acknowledge we can't be at the 0 mils. We've had that for a long time now. So I appreciate everyone's hard work and discussion on this. And I will tell you that a lot of the feedback from the public has been not only considered, but it's been provided as feedback that we've instituted in this budget. So thanks for everyone's feedback.
One more thing, if I may. Along with that, you know, we haven't really had a line item budget like this. We all sat down and went over, and Christine come up with this format, and it's more, there's more places for things to go that we can, next year it'll be easier to follow and track, and this is a great start. And next year, hopefully it's, you know, with this new format that Christine implemented, it really gives you a better feel or a better sight of what's going on. Thank you, Christine.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Ray. Thank you.
Okay, for myself, I just agree with just about everything that everybody said. I'm not gonna try to say the same thing again. Thanks, everybody, for your comments and your feedback. For tonight, for public comment, we will hear comments on the budget and agenda items only at this time. Please approach the podium or raise your virtual hand. Clearly state your name and address and limit your comments to 3 minutes. For tonight, we're definitely going to keep the 3-minute limit. Everybody gets 1 chance to comment in this beginning section, and then you'll get 1 chance to comment at the end. We're gonna have to be pretty, follow our guidelines pretty clearly tonight. So if anybody would like to make comment, please raise your hand or your virtual hand. I see Kim has her hand up.
Tim along as well.
Oh, Tim is first. Okay, sorry, I didn't see Tim. It's big. It's,
Oh, sorry.
yeah, I can't see. Tim, you're first up. Go ahead.
Hello, everybody. Tim Long, 323 Penn Street, Verona, PA. I'm sorry if it's hard to hear me. I'm at work. I just had a couple things on the budget that I was researching after I watched the last meeting. And one of them was a higher fine for vacant lots in the borough. We should be fining people or at least upping a charge, giving them some kind of charge, because we need to get businesses and houses built on these lands to put them back on the tax roll to get more revenue into the town. So I mean, I think we really need to look into some kind of a fine or a policy for a higher thing for people to hold vacant lots for no reason. We have a lot in town, and if there were houses and businesses on them, we would be collecting more taxes. So that's just one thing I wanted to look into. And also, we need to use the cameras in town. I think it's ridiculous that we had such a low number of tickets in this last quarter. People blow off the red lights in Verona constantly. There's cameras on the boulevard. They're there for that reason. They're there to monitor traffic. So I think we need to use them, and maybe look into some grants about getting some more cameras to put them in problem spots around town where people are saying people are speeding. These are things that catch people, and tickets raise revenue. That's all I have to say on the budget. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comments, Tim. Next, I believe, is Kim Roller.
Hi, this is actually Erin Palermo via Kim Roller's house. I'm at 861st Street in Verona, PA. My question was, why are the proposed millage percentiles 1, 1.9, and 2? I saw in the budget that 1% will drastically reduce the deficit, and a tax increase won't ever level set back to the prior millage. So are we not able to bridge the gap more gradually, so over time people will feel less of a pinch versus doing it all at once?
I don't know that I can answer your question right now. This really wasn't set up as a question and answer kind of meeting.
We set the rules at the beginning that everybody's going to be getting 3 minutes, and then there'll be response at the end, if any. So we're not going to respond at this point. We'll let people have their public comment. I paused for 3 minutes in case she has other things she wants to talk about.
Okay, do you understand the question?
I thought we were going to let all public comment come out first.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
just let the comments go.
But I just don't understand the question, but do you have more you would like to say, Aaron?
I guess just a clarification of the question, if there's confusion, as our millage rate increases, it's not as though that millage increase is ever going to, or I'm sorry, that millage rate will drop back down to level set to what we're at right now. A tax increase is typically a permanent situation. So as we see the gap between what our deficit is and what our potential earnings are with that millage increase, wouldn't that over time with a smaller increase bridge that gap versus a large increase right now, which bridges it immediately but produces a surplus in the future, which is from a borough standpoint, I'm sure a fabulous thing, but from a taxpayer standpoint, money that we've paid into something that we probably can't afford right now as borough residents.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. We'll see what we can do about addressing that later in the meeting. Okay, thanks. Anybody else? Go ahead, come up to the podium, please. Can you turn the mic on? There's a button on the top there. Push it up to, thank you.
My name is Dan Teehee. I live at 518 South Avenue. I just wanted to touch on Tim's comment about the vacant properties here in Verona. I've done a lot of research over the past year on these vacant properties and a lot of the blighted vacant properties. And I noticed that the borough has a lot of liens on these properties, and there's property owners out there that have been sitting on these properties for 5, 10, 20 years and haven't paid taxes in that long. And my question is, can't the borough do something about a sheriff's sale to dump these properties to somebody who would be interested in buying them to be able to collect a tax revenue? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Rhoda.
Rhoda Wharf, 636 3rd Street, Verona. I have a suggestion from before when we were talking about the budget, and it had come up, a concern that we had in the allotted in the budget, like $18,000 for a secretary. Once we're able to promote Christine to a managerial position, and I have a great idea that actually wouldn't cost money. Nancy's been doing a great job holding the fort down for this past year with Dave, of course. And if she's willing, and I'm putting you on the spot, I know that, but if she's willing to help out until we, get our finances more secured, I think it's a great idea for her to help out in the office. That's something to think about. Thank you.
Thanks, Rhoda.
Vince Flota, 323 Penn Street. I think 2 council meetings ago, I brought up the fact that the parking ticket seemed very, very low this year. I think it was $2,700 collected in parking tickets this year. Last year, I believe it was 28,000. The year before that, it was over 20,000. The year before that, it was 19,000. Christine had mentioned that that has been all that is collected this year. And I still think that needs to be looked into, because if everybody remembers, in 2020, we suspended giving parking tickets for the better part of the year because of COVID, and people weren't going outside. They weren't moving their car. So council suspended writing parking tickets for, I'd say, 8 months. And it's still documented. We collected $28,000 in parking tickets in 2020 and only $2,000 in parking tickets in 2021. I really would like council to find out where that money is, because this is why we're in this position. Wasteful spending, not keeping track of our spending, and just sweeping it under and moving along. We got to find out where we made our past mistakes and address them, and find out where that money is going so it doesn't keep going there. So thank you.
Thanks, Vince. Anybody else? Go ahead.
Alexandra Sabina, 724 Allegheny River Boulevard, rear building. There are a couple of things I would like to address this gentleman. He asked about vacant property. I would also like to add landlords who are not within the borough or active with their property. It's what time frame can we give people to step up and equal what they owe to the outstanding debt? I'd like to see that happen with under a year. If they're holding on to a piece of property and someone would like to buy it, would those people be responsible for the back taxes? And that could cause a problem buying a property already in a deficit. Would there be any kind of break on purchasing tax lien property? Also, with the percentage of millage, as someone said, and I can't recall, that the millage will always go up and never come down. So taking smaller bites each year sounds good, but on the back end, are we paying fees on our debt? And would it be better to just bite it, take it all, pay it off, and then not add any more percentage on our tax roll for a period of time? And if you could quantify or qualify a period of time where there would not be any additional tax rate, that might pacify some people in paying more upfront right now to help bring down the debt. Thank you.
Thank you. Who else? I think, did Kim's hand go down and go back up? Because there's two of them there. Aaron and Kim are together. Is that you, Kim, this time? Hello?
Says yes.
Okay, is she still muted?
You can unmute, I think.
Sorry, I didn't want to unmute until I was called upon.
Okay.
So,
ahead.
thank you very much, Madam President. So my comment would be similar
Could you
to
state your
Aaron.
address, could you
Oh, I'm
state
sorry.
your address, please?
Yes, ma'am. Kimberly Roller, 853 First Street, Verona, PA, 15147.
Thank you.
Yep. Similar to Aaron's comment regarding the millage presentation that Mr. Matlin did, while I appreciate the conversation and the clarification, and to Mr. Warren's point, I do agree that we need to continuously move towards the green, and we need to be in a better position as a borough. And I do appreciate that we went from a 2.7 to a proposed now 1.9. I do believe I had emailed council about this a couple weeks ago, but if you look back at the numbers, the proposals are a 1, a 1.9, and a 2. I feel that there is an in-between number in the 1.5 range or 1.7, where it's slightly lower, that could meet in the middle and not have, you know, a negative 7,000 or a surplus of 82. And whether that's dropping down another couple $1,000s on the sewer fund, or, you know, whatever the case may be, in order to get us to that number. To Mr. Flota's point, where there is a potential for additional revenue in the tickets, if it was actually at the 20 grand that had been previously discussed. I believe that we can meet in the middle of this year, and then should we need to next year do an additional 1 mil increase or a 0.5 or whatever it is that we need to get to be at more of a green scenario and more of a positive balance. And then again, slowly and gradually move those millage increases up instead of a larger millage increase this year. Because additionally, while there are a lot of rental properties in Verona, that millage increase will hit those owners of the rental properties and then cause rent most likely to increase as well. And to do it in a slower pace, I think would be more on track with what the borough is currently doing. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Kim. Is that it? Go ahead, Dan.
Just sit there, Dan.
Dan Showalter, 440 North Avenue. Though I absolutely despise the fact that we're raising taxes, I kind of sort of get it. I appreciate the fact that you guys were knocked it down to the 1.9. I think Kimberly's correct. I think you guys can get down to 1.5. In a perfect world, we had all like a little bit of a cushion. But right now, we just don't have that. So we're going to have to leave real tight. And that's just the way the borough's going to have to operate for the next couple of years. I'd also like to point out the fact that the days of sloppy budgets and miscellaneous line items, those days are over, guys. The public is going to be paying attention from here on out. These kinds of meetings where people will show up and push back, it's going to continue. And we will be keeping an eye on every single one of you up there, because we're not going back to the bad old days where budgets look like a pile of poop and you have to sift through it and you never knew exactly what was getting spent and where it was being spent at. And if you guys screw up, we will hold you accountable. In less than 2 years, there's elections again. You don't want to mess up because you're going to piss us off. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Anybody else? I don't see any other hands either on Zoom or here in person. So some point, maybe we can address some of these questions, but right now, I think we should proceed with the meeting. What do you guys think? Okay. The next thing on the budget or on the agenda is our monthly finance reports.
Thank you, Madam President. So the finance reports for the month of November, everyone should have received hard copies as well as electronic. Should have a balance sheet, income statement by month, budget versus actual report, and a list of bills and disbursements. I'm not going to go all of them in detail, but I will mention in the budget versus actual report, total income year to date through November, well, January through November 30th, in general fund is $2,059,648.20, and that is 100.16% of the budget. So that's good. We're trending over on our revenue for the year. Total expense through November 30th in the general fund is $1,731,712.06. And that's 86.01% of the budget. With 1 month remaining, that's also looking pretty good. Some of the large. Craig, come on, man. Large receipts, Oakmont Municipal Authority, sewer rental fees, the amount of $17,412.75. And then we also received the GPTSO grant money for the First Street reconstruction and the amount of $252,689. And then there was the CFA Act 13 grant in the amount of $30,819. Any questions so far, the council?
Nope.
Okay, moving on to the bills and disbursements. The total bills for this month, and I'll note that this does, well, it's, say what it is, and then I'll have a note. It's $470,036.08. The two big, large disbursements, which, and you'll notice this was a lot higher than normal, but one of them is countered with the grant money that we received, is the Melly and Sons in the amount of $252,689.40 for the First Street reconstruction project and ADA ramps. So what happens is basically when Matt receives the invoice from the contractor, we review it, and then also at the same time request the grant money so that we're getting the grant money and paying out the contract at the same time. And again, that was covered basically 100%. The other large disbursement was Alcosan at $175,146.20 for the 1,172 accounts for quarterly service ending on 8/10/21. So I will at this time make a motion to approve the list of bills dated December 14th, 2021.
Second.
Okay, first by Mr. Matlin, second by Mr. Suchovich. Any other questions or comments about the bills themselves? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passed.
Thank you. I think that's it.
Treasury report?
Oh, that's basically included there.
Okay. Where's my thing? Oh, I did have one comment question on the budget versus actual. It says here we're $281,000 approximately under budget. Is that how you would interpret that?
Yeah.
So just want to note to council and the people in the public there, we did good at keeping some expenses down. I mean, it doesn't solve our problem, but we're headed in the right direction.
Well, so I will point out that budget number is for the year. The number before it that it's being compared to is for just through November 30th.
Yeah.
So that's, if
It's
we,
1 month.
if we
Yeah.
spend less than 281,000 in December, then we will be under budget on expenses. And I do know that historically, I think we typically have some large expenses coming in December at the year end.
End of the quarter.
So, yeah, end of quarter things. So, you know, it may bounce back up a little bit, but I think we should be looking pretty good, all
Okay,
things considered.
thank you. Okay, so we made the motion on the bills. Excellent. The next thing on the agenda is approval of the minutes, and thanks to Christine, she has been able to complete all of the minutes that everybody on council received. And as soon as they're approved, they will be posted on the website. So we have August 31st, which was Christine's second day of working here and first meeting. It was very memorable. Then the minutes for both meetings in September, October, and the business meeting in November and the special meeting in November. The minutes for the 30th were sent out to everyone. For those of you that do shared docs, you know, if you could fill in anything you can remember on there. So we'll get that done, or you can just use the other way that Christine sent it and just call up the attachment and write her an email about anything that you could add to those minutes from the 30th. So at this point, I'd like to take a motion from someone to approve all of those minutes from the
Motion to approve
31st.
the minutes.
Pardon me? Oh, thank you. First by Mr. Warren, second by who? Janet, thank you.
Sylvia.
Sylvia, oh, Sylvia. Any other questions or comments on approving the minutes?
Thanks for getting us up to speed. Really appreciate it.
Yeah,
Yes, thank
a
you.
lot of work.
Yeah, they're done.
Okay,
Good job, Christine.
and
Thank you.
so that was fantastic. Any other questions or comments about the minutes? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right,
And Nancy, just to be clear, you are not approving the ones for the 30th, only through the 23rd, correct?
right,
Okay,
right, because I think
Yep.
people probably need a little more time to make their comments
all right.
that
Thank
you know, that you sent out, so. Next up on the agenda is myself. Just want to mention that we had an exec session regarding personnel before this meeting. And Christine will be talking about one of those things and coming up in her report regarding BIU. I have here in my thing budget comments. I don't know, I'd like to find out from people, you know, I'd like to address some of the stuff that was brought up. When would you guys suggest that we do that? Now or later, the end of everybody's reports?
Now.
Do it now? Okay, I wrote down pretty good notes here for people. In terms of the vacant lots, I just want to let people know, we do have an ordinance that fines people for having vacant lots, as long as they have, if they have not been keeping up with them, if they don't pass inspection, if they're not for sale or lease, there's quite a stiff fine if they're not doing those things. So that is in place. I think the issue there is the issue is having the staff to be able to implement many of these ordinances. And as we level up, as we say, we will get the staff to do that and increase our revenues in that way.
Nancy, can I have one thing to that?
And please do, yes.
Just since we're on that topic, just to report out, Mike of BIU, who is our inspector, has actually started enforcing that ordinance. So, you know, the checks are starting to come in based on, you know, property owners who are in violation of the ordinance are now, you know, registering the vacant property and paying their fines, and he's really on top of that. So, so it's happening.
Great. And then there was the comment about using the cameras in town, something about the low number of tickets, which also maybe ties in with what Vince says. I have a feeling, and Christine, you may be able to say more about this, but I think that it was a coding issue, wasn't it? Previously, a lot of stuff for the revenue was being dumped into that one line item that was saying 20 some odd $1,000 for parking tickets, and now it's 2,000. Is that accurate?
There were two issues. One was coding. And so from what I can tell, it looks like when a deposit was made, the whole deposit went to a particular line item as opposed to separating out the deposits into the different line items. So part of it's just a coding issue that's been resolved. And for 2022, I've already worked with the net. We had a meeting, we have a new form so that parking tickets are coded as parking tickets and vehicle ordinances are coded as vehicle ordinance violations. So that part will totally be fixed moving forward. And the other thing that makes that number really different this year compared to previous years is that in 2021, that the amusement tax or machine tax, the thing for the gambling machines at the Moose and wherever else, that was not collected in 2021. And so the revenues are way down in 2021. I thought it was about $9,000, but it's actually like $14,000. So like right there, a bunch of that money that appears to be missing. I don't like using that word because it's not really missing. It just like there was a decision made to not collect it because of COVID. And so we didn't get that revenue. That revenue has been added back to the budget for next year. So in 2022, that will be collected. But that's like the vast majority of the difference in why that, I won't say line item because, the way things got put in was not quite how we want to do it in the future. But it's not missing, a decision was made.
Yeah, thank you. And any other money is also not missing. It was just put in a different part of the budget for 2020 is how I'm understanding that. In terms of the question brought up by Aaron and Kim, I think, Dave, I'm hoping you can answer that because I
actually have that if it's the historical knowledge for millage increase, decrease.
Okay, thank you.
So if we look at Allegheny County, if the question is, once you go up in your millage rates, if it ever goes down or not, as history shows in Allegheny County, in 2019 alone, 24 communities did actually decrease millage. Now, it might not have been a big swing, but 24 communities have been able to. From 2010 till 2020, there's actually been 55 municipalities who've been able to decrease based on their millage rate at some point being dropped, whatever that would have been. So it can be done. Like I said, I want to be in the green. I hope to be at a future meeting where we're not looking at the same sheet we're at, but we got to start somewhere. But it is definitely possible that our millage could be decreased at some point. I just want to show that historically it has happened out in Allegheny County.
Thanks, Joey. Any other responses to that?
I just want to clarify, and I'm pulling up the experimental budget slide again, that the net line in the third or for the fourth row, we have to pass a balanced budget. That's a requirement, period. So, yes, we could theoretically go less than 1.9 mils and end up with a balanced budget, but a balanced budget could be zero, net zero. We would still have a negative fund balance and, to the tune of 50-some thousand dollars. And we would have very little, if any, room, if there were any sort of emergency in the borough, major public works disaster, emergency roof replacement for one of our buildings. I mean, there's any number of things. It leaves zero margin for error. And I don't think that we felt that leaving zero room or zero margin for error was worth it, because it will cost the taxpayers much more in the long run if something were to happen. So again, we were trying to find a balance there, knowing that we have to, at a minimum, balance the budget. And it would be wise or good practice to try to get to at least a zero ending fund balance and potentially have some room for a rainy day fund in the event something, God forbid, and hopefully that doesn't happen, but in the event that something does happen. So that hopefully that just sheds a little bit more light on the explanation there, or the thought process that the committee looked at. And I will add that we looked at it at past meetings, we looked at operating expenses, because one of the rules of thumb that some local governments look at for what to have as a minimum fund balance is X number of months of operating expenses, and we don't get a lot of our tax revenue from real estate until starting in March. So if we were to look at 3 months operating expenses, it's in the, it's close to $500,000. So we're well below that. We're not even trying to, achieve the levels of fund balance that maybe would be recommended standards. I know it may not seem that way, but we're still looking at this as this is an incremental step. This is a much smaller jump than we could have made. And we don't want to be bare bones, because there'll be no room for growth, no room for emergencies. And that's a danger to all of us. So hopefully that clarifies things a little bit. And I appreciate all the public feedback on this.
Thank you. Let's see here. I don't know how to answer your question, Alexandra, about the buying property and the break on the past taxes, but I think there's something in that exists that can help with that. But if you call the office at some point, it can talk about what the options are with that. And Dan, I'll agree with you. The days of sloppy budgeting is over. And thanks to Christine, a lot of those minor and major expenditures lines that was on the old budgets have been broken out. And so you can see them all, and that's going to continue more and more. This was Christine's first stab at it, and I think she did an excellent job. You can only do what you can do, and then hopefully next year it'll get even better. So I don't have any other comments on the budget other than to say I do appreciate and hear everybody, what they're saying, what they're commenting, everybody's input. It makes for a more unified community for both council and community to be discussing everything together. And so I appreciate everybody being here, everybody being willing to be more involved. Appreciate it very much. And I also want to wish everybody happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy New Year, all of those good things. So I may have a little something else to say at the end, but for right now, that's my report. Next up is the mayor.
Thank you, Madam President. Janet and Nancy, I would like to thank you for your time and service on this board. You've done a lot, and it's well appreciated. And, thank you and good luck in the future.
Thank you.
The other thing I have is real quick. We are going to have Santa Claus on the fire truck this year. It's going to be on Sunday.
Sunday,
The
day after Christmas?
No,
or-
the night, no, December 19th.
Okay.
December 19th is Sunday. It's supposed to rain all day on Saturday. So we're gonna move it to the 19th, and I'll get with the fire department, and Ray and I have talked, and we'll go from there. But we will have it, it'll be a police escort, just like we did last year. And don't forget the police committee. We have a personnel meeting on police on the 20th at 5 p.m. And lastly, I'd like to wish everyone a happy holiday, Merry Christmas, and a Happy New Year's, and have a blessed New Year's and a holiday, you and your family. Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor. Next up is our Christine DeRunk. Thank you.
Thank you. Just want to provide a quick update on the BIU contract. This is something we've discussed in executive session right before this. The long and short of it is we will be paying the existing invoices under the current contract, which is actually less than what they've invoiced us for. I've made some adjustments, and we will be re-upping with BIU so that we can retain Mike, as he's quite good and has been very thorough in his work. So there'll be a motion for that at the end. I wanted to bring up two policies that are needed, and I believe these ones to be needed sooner rather than later. The first is a policy on how we handle complaints related to vacant private property. So there's a property right now that there have been a number of concerns about, and right now it's vacant. There's a lot of garbage in the front yard. The neighbors are complaining of raccoons and rats. And so the question is, what's the borough going to do about it? But then my follow-up question is, this is on private property. And then if we do something about it, so AJ did actually go up to the property and check it out to see if basically what's going on with the structure. Is it open? Is that how animals are getting in? That kind of thing. And he believes the primary issue to be the volume of garbage that is located on the property outside of it. And so I asked him, well, how much is there? Like, if you cleaned it up, what's it going to take? And so he estimates that it would fill about a quarter of a dumpster. And so for reference, one dumpster full, provided it's not overweight, costs the borough $500. So in addition to, employee time, if the borough decided to clean up, in addition to employee time cleaning up private property, there's also incurring the cost of literally disposing of this garbage. And so I'm not really, I'm agnostic about what happens with this particular property. The question is really more broad in how does the borough want to handle complaints filed like this against private property? It goes to tall grass. Tall grass can make its way through the code system, and it ends up in court. And then by the time it makes it through court, the grass season's over. Now there's snow on the ground, and, repeat in the spring. So, and there's nothing we can do about that. We can't, hurry the magistrate along and say, we want to mow the lawn, hurry up. So this to me is a really important policy, because we do have tall grass. We do have vacant properties. We do have structures that probably need to be condemned. We have a lot of these issues, and the question is, what are we going to do about it, if anything? And maybe it's we do nothing because the budget is still tight next year, and we have to say it's another year of status quo. But then maybe we would want to have some good, thorough policy in our back pocket that can be implemented in the following year. And then we say, I'm just like throwing ideas out there. I'm just talking, but it's like, do we say we'll spend up to $5,000, and it's sort of a first come, first serve, so get your complaints in sooner rather than later? Or is there a committee that's formed that evaluates the complaints and says, this is a bigger issue than this one, and they get prioritized for cleanup? There are lots of ways that this can fall out. And I just think this is, I've been here just over 3 months, and there have been so many complaints about these kinds of things that are on private property. And, if we want to level up the borough, part of that is also literally cleaning up yards sometimes. So that's something I'm going to be reminding council of, repeatedly, because we do need to do something about this. The other, and then there's still the issue of what do we do about this particular property that's, and Mayor, I don't know if you wanted to speak on that, since you.
Yeah, we need to do something on, like you said, on these properties, especially the particular property. that Christina's talking about. You know, what should we do? I mean, somebody's got to own the property. What they do, just walk away from it, or there's got to be some type of law that. No.
Okay.
No, they're abandoned. What's our option on that? I mean, we can't leave the garbage on there. There's animals that are getting into, there's kids playing. We need to do
Clean it?
something.
Clean it down the road when it's sold? Oh, yeah, I don't know.
Can I ask the solicitor help prepare something, not now or tonight, but there's got to be a response. I don't know about us going on the property to do anything beyond, it's been identified, we've confirmed it, but addressing it, like, I don't know if you can give some thought and provide us guidance, because I think the issue is that between now and the sale, that if you have a lien on it, that's great, but we pile and accumulate trash, and the raccoons come in, and then, you know, we extend ourselves beyond what the work is of the people who do the work here. That's where it gets messy, and that's where I mean, I agree, it's a policy. It's something we have to look at all together.
Sure, I can say this, that you absolutely have the ability to go onto the property, clean the property, and lien the property for your costs. The problem is, there's a strong likelihood you'll never see that money returned. Ultimately, somebody mentioned selling the properties to get them back on the tax rolls. I don't remember who it was.
Alexander.
That's a viable option also. The problem is, that's an expensive process. It costs about $6,000 to the sheriff sell the properties. Usually the school district takes that lead when they see that property should be sheriff sold. And the borough gets a small majority of that money when a property is sheriff sold. And usually when a property is sheriff sold, they get a free and clear title, which means the lien that we have on the property goes away. So we lose every way around it. It's not viable to just leave the raccoons and everything else going in and out of the property. I'll work with Christine to work up whatever policy it is we can work up. I don't know how we go on that property and clean it up. $500 I just heard just for the dumpster alone, and just eat those costs. We have to figure out a way. Mr. Warren said, we'll get some viable policy. We'll do our best to get that done.
Can I ask that we do this at our next workshop in the new year, that we tackle this?
Yep.
Craig, I have a suggestion. Can we put a little bit of trash out each week and avoid getting the dumpster?
Sure, but you're utilizing municipal resources to go on that property week in and week out when they could be filling potholes and doing other stuff. I mean, those are options to look at.
Just a suggestion.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay,
Is this something I can rebut now, or should I wait?
now you need to wait till the end.
So it sounds like for right now, this particular property, we are doing nothing. We're cleaning it up. We're talking about it in January, along with the policy.
I think we need to do something now. And as our solicitor just mentioned, we can go through the process, but this is what our cushion is for. This is why we need a minimum fund balance, so that when things like this come up, we can utilize our people to do what needs to be done. We can't have a property with a bunch of garbage and raccoons running around in it. That's just one person's opinion. I think we need to clean it up, put it in the dumpster, bite the bullet, and continue on. But this would take, for this particular property, would take, I believe, I don't know, a motion to utilize spending that money.
Which we can't do right now.
You're right, we can't do it right now. We would have to either wait until January, whatever it is, 10th, 11th, something like that, or have a workshop meeting on December 28th in order to be able to do that motion. It's not an emergency.
Okay, so it sounds like for this exact moment, that is tabled, because we cannot make a motion on it, but it sounds like there's interest in cleaning up the property. Okay, so Craig, maybe we can talk and figure out some stuff and then report back at next meeting and move on that one.
Absolutely.
Great. The other policy that is, I think, important for us to address is it's related to communications, specifically Cribs Field marquee sign now that it's up and running. But this is more general because there's also electronic billboard on ARB where we get 45 minutes a day to advertise. And as of right now, there's no policy written to say like which kinds of announcements are just whitelisted and can be put up there without discussion. Are there certain, like, is it only borough things? Is it borough plus community groups? You know, basically what goes up on there. You know, some of these announcements are going to be timely. And if we say it has to go, every single announcement has to come before council, well, then the thing might be over before the next council meeting and a decision can be made. So this is something that's going to be pretty important to have a policy, you know, worked out again, sooner rather than later. So that, you know, I can implement that as the person in the administrative office. So I don't know if that's something that the communications committee wants to take a stab at. I'm also happy to work with the communications committee to, you know, draft some ideas about what that might look like. But that's something that's important. And there's a motion later on specifically related to the sign up at Cribs. But that's something we need to move on.
I like your second option. I think if you can provide some context on what the character count is, what, you know, how quickly you can actually update the graphics and the text. And then I think that we could look back to some of the meeting minutes to understand what was agreed upon for it to help give guidance. But I think the committee is a good place to start if you want to work with them.
So I'm just making some notes. I do have one piece of correspondence to read out loud that just came in, so I apologize, it did not make it onto the agenda. It says, this came in to the police department addressed to Annette. Dear Annette, I wish to thank you for your kindness and all your help. The enclosed check is a donation for wherever it can be used. Not much, but every little bit helps. You have been very helpful. Thank you. Have a great holiday season. God's blessings, Barbara Sizemore. And she enclosed a check for $25, again, for Annette to choose where she wanted to have it put. And Annette would like it to go to Bike Derby, which is something they're hoping to get going again for 2022. And then I also just wanted to take a minute to thank Janet and Nancy for their time spent on council and all the service that you have provided to the borough. It's been really great to meet both of you and to, you know, work with you. And Nancy, I wanted to give special thanks to you because you've been, you know, my trainer basically, and showing me where all the magical drawers are located and the magical files and just all the things that I would need to be successful. So I wanted to, you know, thank you for that and being very invested in my success here in the borough. That really does mean a lot to me. And I also wanted to thank you just for all the time you spend. I mean, this is like, it predates me, but it's obvious that you spent countless hours in the office, keeping this place running and, you know, and not just the ship floating, but trying to right the ship and do what needed done to the best that you knew how in the moment, you know, over the last many months. It's was not a small task. And it's something for which I feel the borough should really be grateful. I'm grateful for the work that you've done. Certainly made my transition easier because somebody was there to, you know, start developing processes and start keeping things organized for the audit and things like that. And so, I mean, there's a whole lot more I can say, but I won't. Just from the bottom of my heart, thank you for all that you've done for the borough and for me. It is much appreciated.
Well, you're very welcome.
And enjoy your new freedom. Go hang out with your friends. Go see the people you haven't seen for a year.
Yes, well, I appreciate your comments. Thank you. Is that it for you?
That's it. That's all she wrote.
So before we hear the police chief's report, I would like to just respond for a second. It ties into one of the things brought up with the budget was about, would I be willing to continue in the office a little bit, volunteering after January 3rd? And if council would approve that, I'd be willing to do it for a couple more months while you guys go through the process of finding an administrative assistant for Christine. So I just wanted to state that. I don't want to continue much beyond that. Hopefully someone will get hired. I could help train that person, and then I can go and enjoy my summer and my spring. So just wanted to state that. I didn't state that before when we were answering some of the questions. Okay, Mayor, I'm assuming since the chief is, oh, chief, yes, thank you. Read the police report. Thank you.
Evening, this is for month of November. We received 1,181 complaints. I'm sorry, I take that back. That's for the year. We received- Yeah, I saw that and I go, wait a minute, that is 101 complaints for the month of November, 15 crimes reported, 12 cleared, 2 arrests. Vehicle code summaries issued were 5, borough code summaries issued were 23, and 131 parking tickets were issued for the month of November. Our revenue sources was $698.57 for magistrates' fines collected. Borough's fines and fees collected was $840. Police reports purchased was $45. Municipal fines was $223.15 for total fines and fees collected of $1,806.72. And parking permit fees was $125 on top of that. The only other thing I might try to straighten out a little bit, there was talk about cameras and the cameras doing speeding, and those cameras do not do speeding. They do not take pictures of cars speeding, do not take pictures of who's driving the cars. That's not what those cameras are for. And that's not why they're there. We have used those cameras numerous times to solve hit and run accidents on the boulevard where somebody come by and clip somebody's mirror off. I'm able to get license plate numbers. I'm able to see who hit what vehicle and solve those kind of issues. I've been thanked numerous times from different people whose cars, they come out of a business and their car's damaged, and we're able to help them with their insurance as far as finding out who did those. So that's what those cameras are used for. They're used for, say we have like a major accident at an intersection of Center and ARB. That would help us determine how that accident occurred, because I can go back and look an hour earlier or 2 hours earlier or the day before, whenever the accident occurred, and help us solve those kind of issues. But those are extremely 2 different kind of camera systems. They're not taking pictures of people speeding. They're not taking pictures of those kind of issues. So they can't be used for writing tickets, and we're not writing tickets to create funds for the borough. That's not what tickets are for. Okay.
You mean that's not what the cameras are for?
Yeah, and that's not why we write tickets, to create fun. We write tickets because people do make violations, but it's not to create funds for the borough.
Can I just ask you a quick question though? I have heard over the many months of people talking about the speeding and the going through the red lights. Is there anything being done within the police department to increase the surveillance of these type of issues that are occurring?
We monitor the intersections as best we can. We can't be there, 24 hours a day, somebody just sitting in those intersections, but we do the best we get about trying to stop them. I know I have written citations for those intersections and those red lights myself personally, and the other officers do the best they can about trying to slow that down. To get back to the cameras, I would like to have a camera there at South and ARB. I would like to add a couple of cameras there, and I think that was part of the grant that we had put together, and down at the new red light intersection. I think that would help tremendously with some of the traffic issues as far as, again, accidents and those kinds of things that are occurring. Like, I can't see the second half of the 700 block of Allegheny River Boulevard because the cameras at Center don't go that far down. If I had cameras at South, that might have helped, with some of the accidents and stuff we've had there. So,
and if the camera outside of the building here up and running now, because back a couple years ago there were a couple cars over on East Railroad.
we're still working on it. whether we're gonna put the new cameras in or not. That was part of the grant, was getting those new cameras.
Mhm.
But we've never decided if we're gonna get the cameras or not.
So my understanding is that the speeding and the running the red lights, there's prime times like rush hour, 7, 8 in the morning, maybe 4 or 5 in the afternoon where people are trying to make a light. I know you can't be there all the time, but I wonder if you could stress to the
Absolutely,
people to pay attention at whatever the peak times are when they're doing this.
absolutely.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, we don't need to make a motion for this, so let's keep moving on. What's next? The fire report. Fire chief report. Mr. Fetterich.
Just so you know, this is the fire committee report. This is not the fire chief's report.
Oh, I'm sorry, that's
No,
right.
I'm just saying.
Right.
First of all, I'd like to thank Janet and Nancy for their years of service. It's well appreciated. Happy holidays to everybody. And as of last night, I want to introduce Dan Teehee as our new fire chief in the borough of Verona. Dan will be giving the fire reports from now on.
Okay, can we get one for this month? How many?
We had 22 fire calls this month.
Okay, thank you.
I didn't know if you had that ready.
Is that it, Fred?
Yes, so.
You know, thank you for your services of all the years. I know your father was on the Verona Fire Department. Your brother Donnie was a fireman in Verona.
Well, I'm still a fireman. up
Well,
there.
yeah, I'm just saying, Donnie was a fireman and you were, you know, the chief. You know, we appreciate your service and thank you for the many years that you and your family has served Verona.
You're quite welcome.
How long were you fire chief? Ray?
23 years.
It's 23.
Almost 23, yeah. I believe.
Okay, well, I ditto what the mayor said. Thank you.
Thank
Moving on, do you have an EMS report?
So I do not. I was hoping to get one, but Jamie is still recovering from his surgery. And the other folks in the office were unable to provide a report at this time. I'm hoping we're able to get just a consolidated report moving forward, but it's not clear when Jamie's coming back. He's still recovering, and I was told that he's doing well, but he's definitely still out for a bit.
Okay, great. Thank you. Well, good luck to him in his recovery. Next up is the solicitor.
Thank you. Just a few items on my report. The first one, walk trail update, is nothing really. I prepared a resolution. You see it on the new business later in the agenda. Mr. Matla may have more comment on that when it comes up under new business. Potential litigation update, that's there because I was requested to comment on, I guess there's still members of the public that think that we ought to be going after landmark for some of the budget deficiencies or discrepancies. Mr. Matlin addressed that at last month's meeting. I went back and looked at the videotape. I thought he did an excellent job at addressing that. I was asked to affirm that, and which I will. I think that it would be a poor use of the borough's dollars. We're trying to reduce and keep as low as possible legal expenses. That would only increase the borough's cost to go after them, and the return, in my opinion, is unlikely because he was being supervised by 7 individuals. I should say, the company at the time, and I think we have to be better stewards of our money. And legal fees is one of the things that we're watching. I did my very best to keep them as low as possible this last year, and I just think that we should move on from that topic and not revisit it. So that's that issue. Other legal update, I was also asked to speak on the issue of whether the sewer fund money had to be repaid. I wrote a memo on that about a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago. And it does appear in the borough code that there is an indication that it should be repaid. but it doesn't have to be repaid at any particular point. I think that there's a moral obligation to repay the sewage fund, and I think that what you saw happen today was the various schools of thought came together and were able to work that issue out and defer that repayment to a later date, which was an absolute perfect result in my mind. Nancy and Janet are certainly going to be missed by me sitting on this board, and wish you guys well. And to the community and to the board up here, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and thank you. That's all I have to report. Oh, one more thing to report. I apologize. On the agenda, under the adoption of the budget, under new business, letter F, included in the adoption of the budget is also the adoption of the tax ordinance. They go tandem in there. I will read the tax ordinance off after we adopt the budget. The tax ordinance incorporates the budget. So I'll read that off and ask for a second motion at that time to adopt the tax ordinance. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. President, can I ask Craig one question? There was somebody in the audience asked about repaying of the sewer fund. Is there interest on that or no? Is that an interest-free?
Yeah.
I don't believe that there's
I
any
don't,
interest on
I
that.
just wanted to bring that clear because
Yeah.
we talked about it.
It's
No interest.
yeah, go ahead,
There's
Dan.
no interest. It's just, we're paying back ourselves.
Well, right, I just
It's
wanted,
earned.
because somebody had
Yeah.
asked and I
Yep.
didn't think it.
Yep, there's no interest on that.
Yeah, it's why it makes sense for us to pay it back as we can, and not get a loan, which we would have to pay interest on to pay back the sewer fund. We just borrow from ourselves.
Thank you.
Mhm. Thank you for the question. Moving on, Mr. Pitch.
Yes, thank you. A couple items on the agenda there. The one for the recommendation of the store repairs at the pickle factory. I believe the address is 555 Wildwood Avenue. As the mayor had stated, in the late 90s, there was a large repair on the hillside there. The next section of pipe is having quite a few flaws in it. So I'm working with some contractors to come up with a plan of action. That way we can get it repaired before we have to do a dig repair. Also, part of the line goes under the factory there. So a dig repair is pretty hard without removing the building. So in that, I'm sure some of you, if not all, have over the past year or so have heard the Algosan regionalization. That line is also part of that plan. That's a plan of Algosan that they're looking at the local communities, and anything 12 inches or larger or having multi-municipal flow in it. In this case, that line carries Penn Hills flow from the top of the hill down to the pump station. They're in the process of taking ownership of all those. They're not taking over the billing. The borough still maintains all the billing. They're just taking over the lines themselves. As part of that, they ask you to bring them up to a certain standard. So along with just protecting ourselves, it helps us reach the standard that they want. And they're looking to try to have all these transfers of ownership occur next year. So we're just kind of falling in line with their plan. I'm working with Christine to put together a little presentation for the beginning of next year to kind of go a little more in depth. I believe Nancy had attended a few meetings over the years about it. It's a pretty complicated process, so we'll try to get through all the details and present it so people are up to speed with what's going on. But basically, they looked at like neighboring states of how the sewer plants themselves own like the trunk lines everywhere, and they're trying to mimic that some to take the burden off of the communities. The other item on there was I talked to Pam Pina and reviewed, we did have some damage of the downspouts at Cribbs Field. One of the thoughts up there was instead of replacing them with aluminum downspouts, we could put PVC pipe in there instead and paint it to match. So that was just one thing. I'm waiting on a price from the contractor on that. It shouldn't be much other than just the material. All the pipe connections and everything are there, but that would make it a lot more durable in the future.
And that, to be clear, sorry to interrupt, there is still money remaining in the grant to pay for that, so it would not cost anything additional to the grant.
I worked with the COG this past week. Finally, we got the notice to proceed from the county for the 4th Street demos. That was provided to the contractor last week. So I'm just waiting on a schedule for him. From preliminary talks, I think he wanted to move in here before the end of the year and get those down.
That's wonderful news, Matt.
Yeah, I
It's
mean,
been about
we've only
4
been waiting a
years.
year and a half for the notice to proceed,
I
so,
think it's been longer than that, actually, but anyway, yeah.
but, so we'll finally get those ones off the list there. Same with the 1st Street sanitary lining. We had been waiting for the paperwork from the county. That had also come through and was provided to the contractor last week. I'm just now waiting on a schedule for them. Hopefully they'll be able to move in pretty quick. Other than access, weather really doesn't affect that, so we can get started anytime on that.
Very cool.
The Cloudwood Culvert, we awarded it at the last meeting. The paperwork's been sent down to the county. That should be a spring of next year if everything gets turned around quickly. The tree trimming, I just want to mention, I did finally receive an email back from the contractor. Though it was kind of a confusing email, so I had forwarded that on to Craig. So we're working on a response back to him.
Can you give us an idea of what they said?
So in the email, it didn't really state any actions that they were looking for. It just talked about doing the right thing. And it also just pointed out some dates and questioned why we were asking for the arborist information. So I'm working with Craig to word our response back to him, but it was all laid out in the contract document. So even though at the very beginning we had a phone conversation at which he confirmed they had an arborist and we didn't push for the physical documentation, it was still part of the contract that they needed to provide it. Because part of it was he was questioning why do we wait so long to ask for the written documentation, even though he had verbally committed that they had that. So we'll work through that, but overall there in the email, it never said what his outcome was that he was looking for. It put it back on us to say, do the right thing. So it was a weird email to say at least.
Okay.
And then lastly here, I just wanted to say that we were awarded the 2021 Greenways Trails and Recreation Program grant. That was for some additional park improvements. We had applied for 156,000 of grant funds. We were only awarded 75,000. So we'll work in the coming months here to revise the scope to better match the funding level. See what we can pull out of it and possibly wait for future work there. And then other than with just to touch on the pickle factory sewer line again, it presents some uniqueness with the location and how it goes under the building. So those of you that may be familiar with the Co-Stars program, that allows the borough to just contract with a contractor rather than having to go through the formal bidding process. So two of the contractors I've been already talking with and had field meetings with, they are part of the Co-Stars program. So in this case, it will actually help protect us, because what ends up happening in such a unique situation, the access is hard because the upstream manhole is directly behind the building over the steep hill there. And then just the scope of work. So they're willing to meet and review everything ahead of time, and they're familiar with the project. If we just put it out to bid, someone who never bothered to come look at the site will throw a low number at it, and then we're having to fight change orders and fight them to do the work. So I'm going to be working with these contractors to get the quotes through the Co-Stars program. That way we have that negotiating power with them.
Sounds good.
And I just want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and Nancy and Janet, it's been a pleasure working with you.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you, Matt.
Is that it for you?
And that's all.
Okey doke. All right, next up is Mr. Warren.
Thank you. Just a PSA that the leaf collections end this week. 15th will be the last day. I also want to extend congratulations to Janet and to Nancy for your time volunteering for the community. I really appreciate it, and personally for helping me join council here a couple months ago. But hope you have a relaxing start to your new year, and really appreciate your help and support for the community. Also, Ray, 23 years of service. Congratulations. Thanks for your service to the community as chief as well, and welcome aboard as our new chief. Other than that, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Holidays to everyone. That's it.
Okay, thanks. Thank you, Joy. Anything else for you, Dave?
Just to echo, what's already been said, but thank you, Nancy and to Janet, for your service to Verona over the years. It's much appreciated. And I want to echo what Christine said, especially for you, Nancy, you've served as president the last year or so, and you've done an incredible job in holding the office together when there was no one else there to do that. And that's not something that's expected of a council member. It's certainly not something you wanted to do. I'm well aware, but you got in there and did what you had to do to keep things running. And I think I greatly appreciate it. And I hope the rest of the council and the borough appreciates that as well. Also, thank you to Ray for his 23 years of service as fire chief. That's an incredibly long time. And I appreciate your service, Ray.
Thank you.
And yeah, happy belated Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, and Happy New Year to everyone.
Okay, thank you, Dave. Next is Trish Redzek Showalter.
Thank you, Madam President. Yeah, I got screen share.
It should be.
No, that was.
No, is it
exec.
not? Okay, sorry.
No
Thought
problem.
it was already on.
I also want to echo everyone's sentiments and thanking Nancy and Janet for your service. You've both been wonderful people and resources to go to with myriad of questions and many confusing situations. So thank you for that. And also to Ray as well. That's quite a record. Congratulations again to Dan TV. My agenda item for tonight, it's been an agenda item for couple meetings now, but I think the committee has finally reached a point where everyone is really confident with everything. So I'm screen sharing that document, the latest one now. You also have a hard copy on your desk and was emailed. So I'm just going to scroll through the different categories, but please just stop me if you have a question or a comment on the document.
Trish, can I just make one comment before you start? Because the new version came in after I made copies of everything. The ones that are in everybody's packet does not reflect the one omission. So when you get to that, if you wouldn't mind highlighting it, just because I didn't want to print another, 50
Right.
pages of paper.
Yes, let's save the trees.
Thank you.
Yes. And to clarify, the omission you're referring to is
The zoning permit.
the zoning permit.
The last sentence where we just added the 125 for commercial.
So that actually is easy because that's section 1, zoning and building permits. So distinguishing when you need a zoning permit, which is all the time, versus a building permit. There is a price difference, 125 for commercial and 75 for residential. That is also reflected in the last line as well, and that is the omission we were referring to. Thank you.
You mean where it says the cost for zoning permit paid
Yes.
directly?
Yes.
For residents, 75 and commercials, 125.
Right.
Okay.
Moving down, section 2 is occupancy permit. Section 3 is zoning hearing board. So this is an increase in the escrow deposit. We did keep the other hearings consistent with that. So 350 application plus 650 escrow. As you scroll down, you will see.
So that means that if anybody wants to request a variance or special exception or any of these things, they have to put out $1,000.
Yes.
And then whatever of that is not spent, they will get refunded to them, except the 350 is a solid, so that
Yes.
the most they could get refunded would be 650.
Correct, yes. So that covers the cost associated with that, having the hearing, the solicitor for that, and the advertising.
And then stenographer.
And the stenographer, thank you.
Okay.
So that's section 5 is another appeal. Section 6 moves on to conditional use application fees. Section 7 deals with subdivision and land development matters. Thank you. Section 9 is reflecting our street cut and opening fees. Section 10, and I'll pause for a second here, is for soliciting and peddling fees. We kept the pricing as we discussed. I think the only change since the last time this was discussed in depth is the exclusion of Sundays and federal holidays.
Which doesn't mean that they get them for free. It means they can't do it then. Okay.
Section 11 is adult business license. Twelve is die test, a really clarification of the die test. Section 13, Christine's happy about municipal no lien letter. We have the dumpster permit fee.
Okay. So you're defining the business district from Wildwood to Selden
Yes,
for those purposes.
yes.
Yeah.
Section 16 is our current park rental fees, which may be changing very soon. 17 establishes an intermunicipal liquor license transfer fee. 18 is something on the books related to banner and sign permits.
Refresh my memory. Who needs to pay that? I mean, we have a lot of community groups that put up banners.
Right. So anyone who's requesting it on municipal property, council can waive that for community groups.
Okay, so that would be, they'd have to come to council and ask for that. Okay.
Might I suggest a policy?
Yes, put that on our policy
We're
list.
thinking the same one.
19 spells out our amusement device license fees. Section 20 is miscellaneous fees. And that is it.
Mhm.
So we do have this tentative approval as an action item at the end, but I want to allow a few minutes if there's any additional questions or comments on this.
I'll just say that I think it looks really good. I think this is a vast improvement over what we had before, so I appreciate Trish, your time, the committee's time, and Craig's time, and Christine's time, and working through this. I know we had several meetings ago, we had some good discussion amongst council, and I think there was, this is the result of that, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Trish.
I have a couple of, section 14's been omitted, so we skipped from 13 to 15. So if we want to renumber.
We'll do that.
Yeah, the other thing is we're missing on 9 and 11, missing dollar signs and $2 signs, very small things. But
Trish, pick up on those. We're gonna fix those. We're gonna approve it if it warrants approval, and then we're
Sure.
gonna fix the typos.
Sure. I want to know for section 17, earlier in this document, it shows the advertising and report cost is on the applicant. And then on this one, it's for us. Do we know the cost would then be covered by $1,000 for the liquor license transfer intermunicipal?
We made it consistent with with the zoning, with different zoning applications. We don't know that. We've only had 2 here since I've been here, and those were the get-go and
The Giant Eagle recently.
Giant Eagle.
Yeah.
And the Giant Eagle offered to pay all of our costs. They weren't required to do that, but that was an offer. We decided to build it into the ordinance, the resolution.
I guess my question is, this doesn't cover that cost, so we're not having to bear the burden of those 2 costs, advertising and court.
Do we know, anybody have any idea how much the one for Giant Eagle cost us?
I think I asked you about that and we said it was much less than 1,000.
It didn't reach 1,000.
So it covers it then.
So
Good.
it covers it.
The only other thing I had was on section 18 banner sign permit. I just wanted to mention this. I don't know if it's for now. This is only fees that maybe we can adopt later, but how long between posting and reposting for those people that might do that? So you have a period of time that you can have your sign up. I don't know that there's a period required between you taking it down and putting up again. I think otherwise we might find ourselves just perpetually having signs out. So just wanted to note that. Group. Again, if this is simply for fees, I think we could pass as is, but if we want to look to that in the future, I think it's just a policy we should look to.
Another policy for how long the banners or the signs stay up, you're saying?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. I think just to show the intent of what this is.
Thank you, Joe.
Okay. Okay, we'll come back to that for, yeah. Anything else, Trish?
No, yeah, I definitely want to thank the committee and Christine, especially for all of your input on that. Thank you. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Janet, you're
Thank
up
you.
next.
Thank you. I'd like to mention that the Parks and Rec Board met last Tuesday, December 7th. One of the things they went over pretty good was the, I'm drawing my blanks.
Bylaws?
The bylaws, thank you. Yeah, right in front of me, the bylaws. And next meeting, they'll continue with that, implementing the bylaws. Not much has changed, just more or less going over it. The first spring event that Parks and Rec would like to implement is going to be called Parks, Planets, Pedals, and Paddles event. They're looking to have this event on Saturday, April 30th, run Earth Day celebrations and things like that. There will be a planning meeting that is scheduled for this December 29th. If anybody's interested, want to help out with that committee, there will be a meeting at 6:30 to plan for that. We are looking forward to bringing back the bike derby this summer too. Will be one of the Saturdays after when school's left out. So I will get in touch with Sergeant Francos and, and the rec board is really willing to help out and get this event going off again. So it was always a great event in the past, and I think the kids really get a lot out of it too, and same with all the parents as well. So looking forward to that. And I believe that's all I really have to say about that. I would like to thank everybody on council for all your help, my rec board members. It's been really wonderful working with so many people through the past 8 years, just getting to know everybody in the community, all the people that mentored me along the way and helped me out and helping me serve the best that I can with the community. It's really been an honor for me to serve. And I would like to thank you as well, Nancy, and for your time as you served. And Ray, you was police chief all those years. Fire chief. Police chief.
Police chief.
I'm never been good at public speaking. But I'm not going to be going too far. I'm still in the community and willing to volunteer, along the way. So thank you, everyone, and wishing everybody happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and all that. So thank you.
Is that it, Janet?
That's all I have. Thank
All
you.
right, thank you, Janet. Up next is Provenza.
Thank you, Madam President, and good evening, everyone. We'll start with newsletter. It's gone to the printer, and we thank all of you for a good year of ads and articles. We very much appreciate it. Next newsletter, the due date will be on Tuesday, March 1st. Chamber of Commerce, the next meeting is going to be on Tuesday, January the 18th, and it will be election of officers. And also it'll be held first of the year, and we're also going to be doing membership billings. Last year we didn't do them because of COVID, so this year we definitely have to do them to get the funds back up. Historical Society, next meeting is scheduled for Thursday, January 20th, and that's weather permitting. We never have any idea what the weather's going to be doing in January. So if the weather's good, there will be a meeting, it will be a movie, and it will be announced probably at the next meeting. Twin Borough Ministries, the community dinner for the Twin Borough Ministries is going to be hosted by the ladies of the Methodist Church, and it will be on Wednesday, December the 29th. They are still selling soup, and it will be chicken noodle, split pea, and vegetable beef. Price is $7 a quart or $4 a pint. And also they have homemade applesauce that they'll be selling. It'll be $3 a pint. ALOM, Allegheny League of Municipalities. They will be holding a function in February. The details will be given to me for the next meeting. And ALOM extends greetings for a very Merry Christmas and happy and healthy New Year to all of you here in our Verona Borough and our council. I do want to add John Henry from our Verona news store here. Every year he does his annual toy collection for the children here in Verona. So if you possibly can, if you can bring a couple of toys or at least one toy, that will be done this Saturday, the 18th, from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. And John said he thanks everybody for doing this wonderful thing. And I thank him personally. He just goes out of his way for this, takes the time and does it. And a big thank you to John. This is a very worthy cause. We do have children that maybe wouldn't get a toy. So if you can, please remember to donate a toy to the toy collection here at Verona News. Before I sign off, I hate goodbyes, so I'm not going to say goodbye. I'll just say so long. To Janet, to Nancy, the girls have been wonderful, a great addition. You have both represented beautifully here. I thank both of you for your service. We couldn't do it without you. You were here with us 8 years, 4 years. Very nice. I thank you so much. I do. I know I'll see you both, so I'm not going to say I'm going to miss you. Although I said it to Janet when I came in, then I thought, no, I'm not going to say that because I know I'll see you around. So I thank both of you so much. You are both greatly appreciated. Greatly. Ray, congratulations. I didn't realize it was 23 years. That's a lot of service, a lot of fires, a lot of help, and a lot of people. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I know your mom and dad will be darn proud of you and your brother. Oh, darn. I do. And there was something else. I forget what it was. It'll come to me and I'll just come back and tell you. But oh, I know what it was. Dan Teehee, I want to thank him. I know he left But I thank him for taking that position, and I do wish him the very best. Ray, you can relay that message.
I will.
Yeah. I congratulate him. To each of you, our board here, all of you and the community, I extend a blessed Christmas, very Merry Christmas, and a very happy, healthy, and prosperous New Year. And if there's any questions or comments, I'll be glad to take them. And if not, that concludes my reports. Thank you very much. And again, a happy, healthy New Year and a wonderful Christmas.
Thanks, Sylvia.
You're welcome.
Anything from COG, Dave?
No, no update. The next meeting is tomorrow night, the December meeting, so.
Okay. On the 15th, they're having it early. right?
Yeah, because of the holiday, they always move it up early because of Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Okay, so the next section of the agenda is new business. Christine, you want to run this down,
Sure.
please?
So I would ask for a motion to pay the BIU prior invoices based on the current contract. And that's my estimation, $3,080. And then re-sign with BIU to include UCC and code enforcement services with the terms of code enforcement services billed at $65 an hour and each tip sheet at $65. Inspections remain at $75 for residential and are paid directly to BIU.
I make that motion.
Second.
Okay, first by Mr. Warren, second by Trish Redzek Showalter. Any other questions or comments about this? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Or motion pass? Next. Resolution. I'll take a first for the resolution, the motion to pass the resolution for the comprehensive fee schedule.
I'll make the motion.
Okay.
Second.
First by Ms. Redzek Showalter, second by Mr. Suchovich. Any other questions or comments about the resolution for the fee schedule? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion pass. What's this next one, Christine?
So this is actually something that was brought forth from a resident related to the Cribs Field marquee. The request was made to post on the sign the vacancies for the Parks and Rec Board, and I added also for the Planning Commission. So I would, in one of the previous meetings, we said that those vacancies, we would ask for letters of interest by the last day of January 2022. So, and then it's my understanding that those letters are to be submitted to me for submission then to the full council. So I would just need a motion, because we don't have a policy, we need a motion to be able to post those vacancies with the deadlines on the Cribs Field marquee.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, first by Mr. Suchovich,
Second.
second by Mrs. O'Albo. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, for discussion, it'll just be a call to action to go to the website or to call a phone number or to email somebody. What is the message on the board for the call to action?
I don't know yet.
I think if it's just on the
It's gonna-
website, on the homepage, it's going to be easily accessible. So I'd suggest that. So I agree we should do this, but I just want to make sure I'm clear on what the message is.
Yeah, I mean, the message will be something along the lines of, like, join the Parks and Rec Board, get your letter of interest submitted to the borough by the date, so people know that there's a deadline to it.
Sure.
And then, you know, go to the website for more information. I can just put something up there on the homepage that says, submit it to me, put my email address there and that kind of thing. I kind of want to leave it simple, just because nobody wants to stand there writing things down if they're standing on the corner. So just sort of direct people to the website and post there.
I agree.
I have one question, I guess, again. I know that I said that I was not gonna continue on the rec board. Vince, your term is up on the 31st. It just in terms of how many openings do we have? Do you know whether you want to continue or not at this point?
I think it will all depend on what committee assign one more council.
Well, you're not gonna know that, until after until the first meeting in January, and your term is up on the 31st.
So as of now, then I'll let my term expire. And I will submit a letter of interest to be considered for
Right,
reinstatement if needed.
right, you have time because it's not till the end of January. Okay, Trish, do you know if, I mean, you're just gonna continue your term?
Yes.
Okay, so we know, I guess there's still really only a solid one position open then.
Enough to post on the board.
Certainly, yes. Okay, thank you. All right, so we have a motion on the floor. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No, good. The next up is a resolution for the VOP Trail Phase 1. I think that's in our packet here.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to adopt the resolution to award or accept the Trans Systems proposal for the VOP Trail Phase 1 design.
Okay, first by Mr. Matlin, second by Joshua Showalter. Any other questions or concerns about this? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion pass. Let's see, where are we? Next is Walkworks. Motion to sign the that's in our packet, isn't it?
Yes, you will have this in your packet. So last meeting, we made a motion to sign with our consultant. So this is kind of the other arm of the grant. So we are motioning to go ahead and sign the agreement. It's a subcontract because while it's funded by the Pennsylvania Department of Health, it's passed through the Pennsylvania Downtown Center through their Walkworks program. So that's why we are subcontracting with the Pennsylvania Downtown Center. So I'm going to go ahead and make the motion that we sign up.
Second.
Okay, first by Joshua Showalter, second by Mr. Suchovich. Any questions or comments? I do have a question under reporting requirements. The borough is the sub-recipient, correct?
Yes.
So it says here, we'll submit quarterly reports.
Yes.
So, and also will agree to complete a brief data request semi-annually.
Yes.
Who's gonna do all that?
I'm doing that and Christine has been assisting.
And Christine has what?
She's been assisting.
Oh, okay. So, but you're gonna take the lead on that?
I'm taking the lead.
Okay, wonderful. Any other questions or comments on this motion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay, next motion is to adopt the 2022 budget.
So I will make a motion to, and Craig, correct me if this is incorrect, but we would be amending the advertised, no?
You're just adopting the budget. You've already amended it. The Borough Code requires that you accept the preliminary budget. You put it on public display for 10 days, and then you make whatever adjustments to that preliminary budget that you want, and it becomes a final budget that you approve.
Okay, so the adjustments that we've made tonight, the 1.9 millage and the deferment of the $55,000 to the sewer fund, and adjusting the bookminder's expense by $2,000 to account for the increased cost. So I make a motion to adopt that 2022 budget.
Okay, first by Mr. Matlin, second,
I'll second that.
second by Mr. Warren. Any other questions or comments from council at this time about the budget?
I appreciate all the hard work, difficult decision. I'd say technically we're getting near our 20th hour as a full community in providing feedback, and thanks for everyone's help and support on this, to the finance committee and Christine and all of council and all of the community.
Okay, any other questions or comments up here? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion pass.
And as I indicated, in tandem with that is the tax ordinance, which is an ordinance of the Borough of Verona, Allegheny County, Pennsylvania, enacting, fixing, and levying the real estate tax rate within the Borough of Verona for the tax year 2022 at the rate of 9.7 mils. I think I got that right.
Yep.
Okay, so do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Suchovich. Second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Matlin. Any questions or comments at this time about the tax ordinance motion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion pass.
I just wanted to make a comment on what Joey raised earlier about different communities that have reduced their taxes over the years, and how, generally never happen. I actually represent a number of communities that have reduced their taxes over the years. So I agree with what you said earlier.
It's achievable. You have to make first steps, and as much as we didn't want to be, we're not in the red, we're not in the orange, we're kind of in the yellow. I hope be in the green. I hope to reduce millage at some point.
Okay, great. Okay, so that happening, at this point, we have an advertised meeting on December 28th for a workshop meeting, but unless there's an emergency, I don't think we need to meet on that day. So,
I don't know why you would cancel it, because then you would have to re-advertise it if you need it. I would just say that we're not having it unless we need it.
okay, so we don't need a motion.
No,
We're
I
just
would
gonna
not.
say, okay, all right then, no motion needed.
So so we can just put on the website?
Yeah.
Meeting canceled?
Meeting canceled.
Barring any
Barring
unforeseen,
any unforeseen
yeah,
circumstances.
So that's to go up basically now,
That's fine.
and then we'll make a decision on what day as to whether we want to have a meeting.
So I think you're already deciding that you don't want to have a meeting, but if something comes up, you don't have to re-advertise to say, we're gonna have a meeting.
I understand that. I'm also going to be, on vacation right before that happens. So I would need to know that whether or not I need to report to work to prepare an agenda and post to the website and such. So that's why I'm just asking for us to make some decision prior to December 23rd about a meeting on the 28th. So I know to check email or not.
yeah, I think at this point, we're not having the meeting. And if there's like a dire emergency or something like that, it would be the only thing that would bring us back.
Okay.
A 3-foot snowstorm or, something weird like that, which I don't think is gonna happen.
10 foot.
10 foot, 3 feet's not enough, 10 foot. Okay, so, thank you for that
Yes.
recommendation. At this time, council will hear comments on public related items. Please approach the podium or raise your virtual hand. Clearly state your name and address and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Vince Loda, 323 Penn Street. I'll try to keep this as short as possible. I know Craig got his stopwatch out.
You're already ahead of the game right now.
Earlier, the police chief said that the cameras aren't for creating revenue for the town, which I somewhat agree with. He also said that they are used to help find people involved in accidents or such. I will bring this up again. In 2012, 2013, me and my roommate were ran over by a car in front of Get-Go. There was a camera there. And I was told to my face by the chief of police that it is not his job to investigate it. So I just want to remind council that, because what he said earlier is completely contradictory to what he told me. That leading into the next thing, there are 3 brand new cameras at Cribs. The damage at Cribs occurred after the cameras were in working order. Has there been any means to an end to that investigation? Have we found who did the damage? Are we going to send a letter to the families and ask them to repair the damage? Are they going to get a ticket? Or is this just something that is going to happen like in 2012 and we'll just have to live with it for the rest of our lives? Moving on to the third one. I've talked to a couple contractors about downspouts on parks. Could the contractor have used aluminum downspouts because the materials weren't available because of COVID? Because every contractor I talked to said that if it is a public park, the downspouts should not be tin. They should be either ABS or PVC or something that is boxed in with wood to prevent damage like this. I don't need an answer. I'm just throwing that out there. Maybe they were put up there because the materials weren't available at the time. Might be something to look into. Earlier about the vacant lot fees, I know they exist. I think what Tim was getting at is if we already have vacant lot fees there, shouldn't we be thinking about increasing them? And since we are in this budget dilemma, not punishing the people that actually pay taxes and upkeep their property, but instead of maybe we should punish the people that are a drain on this town that have these vacant lots, they're covered in garbage and are not, if we're already finding them, why can't we increase the fines? Maybe increase parking tickets also. That's a way to create revenue for the town without having to hit the people that live here and pay taxes here. Christina, after last meeting, I believe you were contacted about the last page where it says the first Wednesday of the month.
3 minutes.
First Wednesday of the month, you don't have a title of the meeting. You just have.
Oh, yeah, I see that.
Yes, so could you please put that's the Lower Valley Athletic Foundation meeting? And you don't need anything under the first link. The first link has the meeting ID in it, so you get rid of all that.
Thanks, man.
Save space. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Anybody, oh, look, we have several hands here. Who's first up there? Is that Tim?
Tim Long.
Okay, go ahead, Tim.
Hello, Tim Long, 323 Penn Street, Verona. I'm also at the Lower Valley Athletic Foundation. I just want to request that we're looking for applications also for our board. If we could be put on the marquee up at Cribs, that we're looking for applications. I can send Christine the information in an email. And also that we're looking for local players to play in the football league that we hold at Cribs.
Okay, thanks, Tim. Who is next up there? Jessica. Yeah.
Hey, this is Jessica Verone, 722 Bruneau Street. Just wanted to say thank you to Janet and Nancy and congrats on your many years of service to the borough. We all appreciate it. It can be a thankless job sometimes. And I just appreciate your time. I'd just like to give a special shout out to you, Nancy, for giving so much of yourself to Verona over the past year. I don't know if the public is even aware of how much that you've supported us this past year. Christine did talk about some of this earlier in the meeting, but I feel like it's worth repeating that you showed up every single day in that borough building. You made it your full-time job to keep things afloat and just made sure that our bills were paid, got us set up with an actual bookkeeping system. And through that process really saved us thousands of dollars, and handled all that day-to-day management, fielding questions from the public, and you did all of that for free. So I think we had some significant cost savings there over the past year just from your involvement. And I don't know that we could have found anyone else who's able to give that much to Verona when we really needed it. I couldn't have done that as someone with a full-time job and, young children and whatnot. So I know it was a really stressful time, and I know without a doubt that our borough's in a much better, a stronger position because of your involvement. So Nancy and Janet, I hope you enjoy your break from council, but I think everyone knows you're not going to go very far and just going to continue to be a force in the community through your other volunteer work. So I appreciate both of you. Thank you.
Thanks, Jess. Thanks for the kind words. Next up is either Kim or Aaron.
Thanks, Nancy. This is actually Kim. So first of all, I wanted to thank you guys for all of your hard work, and I understand the budget increase of 1.9, and I appreciate all of your time listening to us and our concerns. So thank you very much. I will now sit down and say thank you very much and kind of accept it. I know that you guys will continue to do a great job. And again, thank you for listening. I know I sent a pretty lengthy email about it, and I appreciate that all of my thoughts and comments were thought out, and that you guys seem to really listen to that. With one specific thing regarding that, I'm going to put on my garden club hat right now and ask some questions that I did not hear addressed during the meeting. And I'll be quick so that Craig doesn't have to beat me out. I raised the question regarding the DPW contract for garden club activities. I did not hear any specific information regarding that. Last year, I was told that we were not permitted to hang basket signage or anything at the pavilion or water them ourselves. One of the first examples I brought up in my email was that when there was an issue with the original baskets that were ruined by mites, we were told that we could not take them down ourselves when we saw the issue, that it needed to be done by the DPW. We were not allowed to water baskets ourselves or have volunteers water. I did request clarification on December 3rd regarding this, and I need to understand the DPW contract and what can be done by the civic organizations. I did request before the next budget meeting for that, because now that the budget has been approved and the millage increase approved with the removal of the hanging basket watering, I need to understand two things. One, will the DPW be watering the baskets during their regular business hours, since the basket overtime, the DPW overtime has been cut? Two, is the garden club and or volunteers permitted to water said baskets should we hang them up? Is that against the DPW's contract, or is that something that can be done by civic organizations? If so, what information do you need from us? What do we need to do? How can we arrange this as we move into spring and we begin fundraising and continuing to support the Garden Club's initiative of beautifying Verona? I need some details and examples of what can be done by the club and what needs to be done legally from the DPW. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Kim. I don't think we can answer all those questions right now, but we'll take it under advisement.
Craig, we can talk about that,
Okay.
figure that out. I have a bunch of notes here. We can touch base.
Okay. Thanks, Kim. So
Can you, I'm sorry,
oh.
so you're saying that it cannot be answered tonight? Do you have an estimated date of when I can receive that information? Because I am trying to figure out spring. I know it's early, but I need to start determining our fundraising needs and if they are needed or not needed for the following year.
Greg, will you have time for us to figure that out by the workshop meeting in January?
Well, sure. That's the end of January.
Mhm.
First of all, I need to know what it is I'm figuring out, because I couldn't hear.
Yeah, I can relay all that.
Yeah. So they'll have an answer for you no later than the workshop meeting in January, Kim.
Thanks, Nancy.
You're welcome.
Okay, bye. Thanks, Nancy. Congratulations on your well-deserved break.
Okay,
See ya.
you're welcome, thanks. Okay, next up, go ahead, name and address, please.
Hi, Kelly Collins, 736 4th Street, Verona, PA. We're talking about the house earlier that was going to cost $500 to clean up. That house happens to be next door to my daughter on Union Street. I've been there multiple times. The house is disgusting. She has a 2-year-old and she has a 6-month-old. They like to sit on the porch. You can't sit on the porch there because of the rodents running by. There's bats at nighttime. We have cleaned the house up ourselves. We have pulled the weeds. We've cleaned the porch off. We don't get into the big stuff in the back. But I'm looking at your budget right here. Janitorial services for the building, $7,800 to clean your building and whatever else that I clean. That's my second job, I clean. And the fact that you're griping about $500 to clean up a house, my daughter's lived there for 4 years. This house has never been cleaned up. I looked at the taxes. I don't think the taxes have been paid on that house in 3 years. She has the address of the person that lives there from the mail that they don't pick up. That's all over the front porch. I'm thinking if you could spend $7,800 cleaning this building, I don't see how you can gripe about spending $500 to go clean a house up that's looked like that for 4 years. It's awful. I'm the one that brought the complaint because I'm the one that has my daughter that lives there and pays rent there. She don't pay tax, she pays rent there. With her kids living, I mean, the distance between her front porch and that front porch, you can touch like this. That's how close it is. So when you look on her front porch and you look at the garbage on her front porch, and then you look at the furniture that's been drug out of the house, and you go to the backyard and see what's in that backyard, it's appalling. And there's a house that lives back there. There's another family that lives behind her that has to deal with what this looks like. So when you're saying that you could pay $7,800 in janitorial services, which I think is crazy. I don't know what all they clean, but this place doesn't look very hard to clean as someone that's cleaned businesses for 20 years. I think griping about $500 to go clean that cesspool up there is awful. It's awful. It's sad that my daughter has to live next to that every day with her kids. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Go ahead. If you, Danny, someone could bring you the mic. You don't have to get up. Okay.
Dan Showalter for 40 North Avenue. I just want clarification. In 10 days after we're done advertising, this budget goes into effect. Am I correct?
No.
Okay.
It goes into effect in January.
Okay.
But the new council has the opportunity to open the budget
Okay.
and revisit it.
Okay. But as it stands right now, if the new council doesn't open up the budget, the advertising goes through, what you voted on tonight is the budget.
It's already been advertised.
Okay.
So it is the budget.
It's the budget. So at this point, unless the new council comes in and decides they want to change some stuff, that's it. We're done.
Correct.
Okay. I know there's one person sitting in this room that on principle would not have voted for this. I find it rather shocking that out of 7 council members and a mayor, not one of you can stand on principle and try to protect the taxpayers of this borough. I know it's a rough decision to raise taxes. I get that. And I wouldn't want to be in your position because of malfeasance from previous councils. But not one of you can stand on principle. Not one. Just go down in a ball of flames, lose that vote 1-6, just lose it. But instead, go along to get along, guys. I thought we were trying to change that. Have a good night.
Thanks, Dan. No. Sorry.
Come up after the meeting. Come up after the meeting.
Yeah.
You can't say anything else about the budget.
No, it's not that. It's that we just asked people to speak once for 3 minutes. Yeah, okay. All right. Any other hands or anybody else here that wants to speak? Okay. All right. So I'm not gonna quite yet take a motion to adjourn, because I just like to say a couple things before I finish presiding over my last meeting. Yeah, I'm not leaving here because I'm choosing to not re-up. I'm leaving because I didn't win the election. And at first that seemed very sad to me. But as time has gone on, I realize that things happen for a reason. And I am looking forward to a break. I am definitely going to stay involved with the community. And I am looking at many of the good reasons why it's best for me to not be continuing with council at this time. I want to congratulate all the people who did win in the election, and I definitely want to wish the best to the newly configured council that's going to be sitting up here in January. I appreciate all of you for serving in this way. It's a tough thing. And like Janet said, I'm not going anywhere in the community. I'm going to continue to be around, to volunteer, to do various things. Janet, thank you for your time and service here for 8 years, and your involvement with parks and everything that you've done. Ray, thanks for your service as fire chief for 23 years. And I might add, happy birthday.
Thank you.
I think it's tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken.
Thank you.
So happy
Thank you.
birthday to you.
21 again.
Yeah.
And holding.
And holding, yeah.
Right.
Not holding too well.
Okay.
Yeah, you are.
So I've certainly learned a lot over the last 4 years, especially this last year. I had no idea what was involved in keeping a borough going. And I never would have known that if I hadn't been in that office, doing the things that I really kind of was trying to figure it out as I went along. It was a very valuable experience, and it's something in my life that I will never forget. I had no idea how much there was involved, and I'm sure that, you know, that if I were to continue on with council and be more involved, that I would learn much more. I realized that I am not perfect, and neither is anybody else, but I assure you that I absolutely did the best that I could, and that I care very much about this community. And I'm going to continue to care about this community, which is why I want to stay active. I also believe that I'm leaving the borough in a better place than how I found it. And despite some interesting comments on social media about me misspending money and so on and so forth, I think that I probably, just by myself going to the office every day, discovered enough savings that we are now saving $1,000 a month due to wasteful spending that I stopped. This is a great town. We're trying very hard to level up, to raise the bar. I think there's great people in this community. The volunteers are amazing. And we're all basically, when you boil it down, volunteers sitting up here, except for Craig and Matt. And so, you know, again, I can't really, words can't express how much I appreciate what people are willing to do. I want to do a special shout out to Dave. Without you, we could not have gotten through this year. It really was something that we had to do together. And with everything, with your job and your family and everything, you stayed up late, got up early, did all those finance things that I could never, ever have done. I just didn't know how. It just seemed prophetic that you and I had to be in the position to be able to do what we did. So thank you very much. Thank you. again, welcome to Vince and to Rhoda. Good luck. And I want to just leave you with a couple of things. I don't know if you guys watch these commercials from Viking cruise ships, but the guy talks about some principles that just really struck me in terms of being on council and being a leader in a community or any kind of leader. And so I just want to say to you how important I think it is for everyone to be kind, for everyone to be honest, to work hard and be curious. In other words, curious, learning. That's very important. Honesty is transparency. Kindness is critical to us becoming a council of one. And working hard sort of goes without saying. And another friend of mine asked in an email recently, what would it look like if we would be successful, responsible, smart, and ethical? And I hope that those are some principles that everybody up here and in the community can strive towards. So I appreciate my probably 5 minutes. I think a little over my three-minute limit, but thank you for listening, and thank you to all who were supporting me during this whole, especially last year. Appreciate it. Thank you. And with that,
Before we go to a motion to adjourn, I just want to say there's a program in Allegheny County called the Allegheny County Vacant Property Recovery Program. And it's specifically designed for people who live next to blighted property to acquire that property as their own. So your daughter